Go.
And we are listening to Jim Stone describe what's really gone on out at Fukushima and with this whole disaster that we're still seeing the repercussions from. Jim, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great. So right before the break, we were talking about the fact that there was no explosion, but you did contact some people out at the site, and they had one thing to say before you started to say they had one thing to say.
Well, what has happened, and we can go over this in the emails from Japan, is a quake was triggered. The peak intensity measured was a 6.67 inland. So it shook Fukushima a little bit, but Fukushima's designed to take an 8.1. So, I mean, it didn't, it was...
Okay, we're kind of losing you right there.
So the only thing that or get a really, really reliable source, so I never publish this. I will not publish things unless I can get it from multiple sources. So I did not publish this. I will say it on the air, though, however. I got one report from one guy out of Fukushima who said that the minute the earthquake hit, a man walked up and did some sort of update to the controllers for the reactors and ran from the facility like he was running for his life. Now, that could be fiction. It kind of goes against the story about Stuxnet being able to learn the facility. That's really the only thing I heard out of there. I heard other stories about...
Okay, let me just go down that road a little bit. What could that man have been doing, in your estimation?
He may have been either telling Stuxnet to switch modes into destroy mode. But if that's the case, then what would be the reason for the internet link into the reactor room? This internet link into the reactor room at Fukushima was spoken about in the Jerusalem Post. This isn't something that just came out of nowhere. Yep. Negative BSP talked to the Jerusalem Post and said that they could monitor the reactor and knew what was going on there because they had the uplink there, but, quote, they weren't using it, unquote. Well, yeah, right. We have this connection in the facility that's going haywire, but we're not using it. It's just like, we're not curious about what's going on in there to be viewed through our camera. No. That's not very believable. So.
Right. What is the bottom line in terms of
the importance of this is that you never allow an internet connection into the guts of your control.
Okay. We're losing you a bit. Are you there? Okay. I can hear you now.
Okay. Now, what were you asking?
What I'm asking is the effect of all of this, because you've got a nuke under Fukushima. What really happened to the reactor? Because we have not gotten a straight story in terms of what's melting down and what isn't, etc.
Well, most of Reactor 3 went off into the wild blue yonder. If you look at the picture from Fukushima from above, you can see all the debris scattered around. You can see the concrete dust from Reactor 4 also. Reactor 3 has been blown to smithereens. Obviously, whatever was left was melted down because it's got to have active cooling for it to not melt down. And obviously, it's not getting it. So Reactor 3's whatever's left of it went to China. Same thing with the fuel pools. By now, they've got to be, it's a despicable disaster.
Can you be more specific? The fuel pools, what are you saying about them?
Well, there was so much nuclear fuel out of Fukushima in those pools that when General Electric designed these facilities, they had done something called closing the nuclear loop. What this means is that if the technology was allowed, the fuel was supposed to be able to be taken out of these boiling water reactors, put in a sodium-cooled breeder reactor, have all the impurities burned out of it, and then that same fuel was supposed to be able to go right back into the boiling water reactor and be used for 20 cycles before it had to go into a fuel pool. Well, President Jimmy Carter banned that technology. GE was denied the right to use it. Since then, that technology, the ban on it has been repealed, but the technology somehow got lost. They're not working on it anymore. So what has happened is rather than have your nuclear fuel get used 20 times and be virtually depleted, it gets used once and then put in the fuel pool. Well, these fuel pools weren't designed to be used that way. They weren't designed to have a new core go into them, once every 6 months or once every year. They're designed to have a new core go into them once every 15 years, 20 years. And so if anything goes wrong with one of these fuel pools, they just go absolutely haywire. They start to boil their water off. Once the water's been boiled off, and the fuel gets hot, and then it melts, and then you've got your China syndrome right in the fuel pool. Those, at least at reactor number 3, where you can obviously see that the fuel pools are totally blown away, this has got to have happened. I had never heard any reports that it happened, but logic has it that whatever fuel remained in those fuel pools, which is a lot more than what was in the reactors to begin with, has caused a secondary disaster out of Fukushima that a meltdown in a reactor could in no way match. Now at reactor 4, where the structure was still basically intact, I'm fairly certain that these fuel pools here stayed intact, and they were able to get the water in them. And then in reactors 2 and 1, obviously, the systems that run those fuel pools probably stayed online. But reactor 3 is the real problem. We're looking at many Chernobyls here.
Okay. But do you think there's been a meltdown into the core?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And do you think that Tokyo is experiencing higher than level, normal radiation at this time?
I personally would probably feel safe in Tokyo, but I actually I didn't believe anything that I was hearing in the press about radiation hazards or anything like that. And I've got a really broad background. I mean, I can't tell you how broad. So I did the safe radiation calculations on my own calculator. And before I went, I looked at anything because I didn't trust anyone's numbers and anyone's words, and I didn't want to be biased. And
right.
when I came up with my own maximum safe radiation exposures, they exactly matched Russia's safe radiation exposures for Chernobyl. Okay, so Russia most likely is telling the truth. Well, Japan is not telling the truth. They are many times over what Russia calculated was safe, the evacuation limit for Chernobyl. I mean, we're talking tenfold over. So we've got these Japanese people that are basking in radiation. Their government is not being honest. I don't think they can be honest because, well, how do you tell these people that their nation's, been severely contaminated and there's nothing they can do about it?
Right.
Can't do anything about it. So you really can't blame the Japanese government for behaving the way they are. It's just like, what are they going to do if a hurricane strikes? Make the wind go away? They can't. They have suffered a major catastrophe. There's nothing they can do about it but live with it. That's all there is to it. And I mean, it is major. They have areas that they're living in now that are 10 times, 15 times, 20 times the maximum, the complete evacuation limit for Chernobyl.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that you would feel safe in Tokyo?
Because Tokyo actually, when you get the readings out of there, it's not that bad. Tokyo is like maybe 1.5 times over background. It's really not that bad. They're probably sitting at about 3 millisieverts a year. Okay,
and what do you feel about the way that the radiation goes? Like it certainly went out into the ocean, didn't it?
Yeah, they're lucky. They're lucky the wind was blowing the way it was when that thing went off because.
Okay, but they're lucky. But is China lucky? Is Australia lucky? Is California lucky?
When you have, we're talking, one of the heaviest elements on Earth, being blown skyward. That stuff doesn't stay in the air very much. So most of it precipitated out in the Pacific, pretty close to Japan. Obviously, excuse me, we had a lot of the really small particles make it here. But even here, whenever I hear about these real serious radiation issues happening here, when you look into it, they're still talking millisieverts, really like below 10 millisieverts, microsieverts. Sure, it's above background radiation levels, but in my opinion, there's nothing that's really happened hazardous in this country.
Okay, what about the fishing industry? I guess off the coast of Japan.
Well, now we get into the issue of the ocean and how much it can soak up. Now, I'd imagine right off the coast of Fukushima and maybe 30 or 40 miles out, we've got some badly contaminated stuff. But by the time you get out to Alaska and their fisheries and the rest of the Pacific, I would imagine that I can't prove it, but we're talking, you can only contaminate so much with so much material. And I don't see how that can mess up the whole ocean.
Let me ask you this. Is it continuing to melt down?
I would say that Fukushima has either completely melted down and stabilized or that.
Oh, all right. Okay, we're going to come right back after the break. Thank you, Jim Stone. Okay, this is Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot. Whistleblower Radio, and we're talking to Jim Stone. Jim, right before, let's see, I think we're right before or during the break, we were talking about the Mexican quake, and you are in Mexico.
Yeah.
Can you address all of that?
Yes, I want to kind of move away from the Fukushima power facility and get on to the topic of false flag terror in the name of the environment. Before we leave the Fukushima point report, I actually got the official report from the World Nuclear Association and what they said about Fukushima. And from the report, they specifically state the generators never got submerged, that even though the main generators failed, that they got adequate generators out there. So the entire generator story is a lie. If you go down to the bottom below the earthquake portion of this Fukushima article, there's all the technical specifics of why what happened at Fukushima couldn't have happened. It's all in the bag down there. If you've got any technical understanding of things, go down there and read it. It's kind of difficult to understand, but it's very well documented. And I'm going to get on to Mexico now. Right now, I'm in Mexico because I got chased out of the country over this Fukushima report. I had numerous attempts on my life. I got jailed twice. Okay, so I was here when this Mexico quake happened. So I got on the ball with it. In fact, I was sitting in this very Starbucks at this very table when that earthquake happened. And that's kind of interesting. But this quake, you need to go back to the very home page of JimStoneFreelance.com. Okay, I'm going to give you some time to get back there. And the very, very first link in the far right-hand column, it says Mexico quake proven man-made. Click that link. And here we have it. I wrote a email to Edgar A. at DeGaray.com, and one of my quotes in the mail, I said, I think it's going to be pointless to take it beyond this. The case is proven pretty perfectly with very little. It's like finding the thief with a cash drawer back in the weeds 1 minute after the robbery. Further explanation simply is not needed. Anyway, it's really, really good to figure out that they pulled off a false flag event in the name of the environment within hours of them doing it. Because here we have a link to a Mexican page where they are talking about a 7.9 earthquake drill. They reported this on March 13th, 2012 at 9:41, that at high noon on March 20th that they were going to be running an earthquake safety training drill in the Chiapas district of Mexico. And lo and behold, at high noon in the Chiapas district, they had a 7.9 earthquake that for real. Okay, well, if you get onto the if you're into the in anything about this false flag terror, a lot of these people know that they are running a simulation of 9/11 simultaneous with the real event that matched the real event. They were running in the London train bombings. They were running a scenario simultaneous.
Yes.
Well, here we have in Mexico an exactly simultaneous scenario that matched the earthquake that occurred exactly. There's an advertisement produced by the Chiapas district that I have there. It's a very nice graphic that they did. And